Hello everyone, welcome back. Nigel here, Nigel's Modelling Bench. This is part 8 of the Hellcat build, and as I said in part 7, part 8 is going to be all about, well, start off all about getting the wings together. And as I also mentioned, there's a lot in here. As you can see, there's a lot of frames and structures and stuff, and it's worth just going over with a sanding stick and just making sure that everything is sort of level and there's no immediate protrusions sticking out. And like you can see here, that this corner here is raised above them, so just make sure you've got nothing sticking out that's going to affect the fit, because honestly this kit is very precise, and any little bits and pieces that aren't quite right will affect the going together. It's very much like Tamiya. If it isn't going together, you've done something wrong. It's not the kit's fault. I struggled with my other one, with my US Navy one, with this part of the operation, and it was my fault. These partitions in here, you'd expect them to be, I can't remember the numbers now, but you'd expect it to be like 2, 3, 4, and it's not. It's 2, 3, 4 sort of thing. So it's not what you'd expect. And then these spars here have to fit into these grooves in the upper wing, and like I said, shrinkage and God knows what. You're really fighting against somebody with a CAD model designing a kit, and yeah, I can't believe that. I'm very surprised that Airfix haven't done some retooling on this one, because the problems with the engine core, for one, is an issue, and also these wings are a bit of a nightmare to get together. But if you persist and you do it right, they will go together beautifully. And like you can see there, that little support there, that's springing up in the middle. It needs to be pushed down, but if you just keep manipulating it and pushing it around, you can hear it all sort of clicks together. Don't be scared to give it a really good squeeze. What I would suggest is get it all together like this, okay? Get it all so it's all held together. Don't worry about gluing in here unless you really want to. I mean, if you want to put some glue in there, use something that's a little bit slow setting. Use perhaps the Revell contactor that my labels come off on, and get some on there. But really, I wouldn't really worry too much about the gluing of those spars. I would concentrate more on the leading edge, the trailing edge, and making sure it all goes together. Because if you don't get it all together right now, then you're fighting a losing battle. Now the way to do is start with the leading edge, hold that together, and then just squeeze it all around. And what I'm doing here, what I'm basically doing is this, okay? I'm basically just pulling it all around and getting it to go together, and you can hear it clipping in. All right, so the leading edge has gone together now. All right, so that we know that's going to be fine. Then the trailing edge, that's all looking good. That's all looking good. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple of pegs on the trailing edge just to hold that together. I'll put one there. All right, and then we can look at the leading edge. Now, the leading edge, it's going together fine here. I've got a bit of a gap there, but I'm not going to worry about that too much because the rest of it is all closing up. Now we've got a step here. The upper wing is stepped out from the lower wing, but it's gone together okay. So what we can do is, just to give us a bit of room to play, come along with a fairly coarse sanding stick and just take some material away from that forward edge. And this is the thing, when these kit designers do these on CAD and they don't give you a tolerance, a fit tolerance, a 6mm pin will not fit into a 6mm hole. It needs to be 5.999 or whatever. It's no good having a 6mm pin trying to go in a 6mm hole. And that's the way this kit is made by the look of it. It's the same with wing-nut wings, very, very, very close tolerances. So you can see now that's gone together a lot nicer just from that couple of swipes with the sanding stick. So as I say, it's worth, take your time, make sure you got everything right. Make sure you're getting it all together. Okay, and then when you're happy, now with this wing it's very solid, so you can use pegs. You can actually put pegs on this to hold the leading edge together. Normally with a wing section on an aircraft, if you put a peg on there, you're going to squeeze it in and it's going to open the joint up. But with this, it's not the case. Now here, you can see if I squeeze on the end in the middle, it opens it up. If I put a peg on there, it's going to open that joint up rather than close it. So be a little bit careful. So we're going to have to do some re-riveting, some rescribing around the leading edge, or just a couple of bits of rescribing, but mainly re-riveting. So I'm going to get some bits of Tamiya tape ready to tape all this together. I can put a close peg on there, and then we can run some cement in, and then we'll deal with the trailing edge after. And I'm not too worried about how this looks in here because it's going to be covered with flaps and stuff. But let me get some tape together and then we'll come back. So we're ready to go. So I've got my Mr. Cement S here. This is the Mr. Hobby Mr. Cement S. The only reason I use this rather than Tamiya extra thin is the brush is so much bigger, and you can really get in there and get some glue in there. The trouble with the Tamiya brush, it's so fine, you're forever applying glue and sort of never really getting anything in there. You want to get something in there and get it melted. So just giving this a bit of a squeeze and a bit of manipulation, and it's gone together absolutely fine. So what we can do here first of all is get some glue into there if we can, and hopefully that will run up into the end of that spar. Okay, make sure we don't get any glue on our fingers, we don't want to ruin the surface. And I'm going to start from the inner edge because that's the toughest bit. So get that close peg out of the way, and I'm going to put some glue in here. Now I'm not worried about the paint because the paint is just basically a primer anyway. I mean, the green was a primer in real life, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I don't want to put a close peg on another glue because when I put a close peg on it does that and it may set in that shape. So I'm going to come in here with some cement into these gaps. As you can see, the brush on here is so much bigger than the Tamiya brush. As I say, it enables me to get some glue in there. So I'm going to give it a good squeeze, make sure it all goes together. Let's get some in there as well. Okay, and you can see the glue oozing out now. So we know we're getting somewhere. Now I'm going to leave that glue to dry for a few seconds. Because if you start putting tape on too soon, what will happen is the glue will capillary out under the tape and it will go around and ruin your surface detail. And as we all know on this kit, there is a lot of surface detail. Okay, so I can take a piece of Tamiya tape now. This is the 18mm stuff because I want it nice and strong. I can just pull that right in there, and that will hold that in position. Okay, and then we can come down to the front here, the leading edge. We can get some glue in here, and it will capillary along. And then we can just give the leading edge a squeeze and it will come together. Just like so. And this is the tough bit here. When you get to here, it's sort of when you get to here, it's not so difficult to put together. But here, it's quite a squeeze. So make sure you get plenty of glue in there because you don't want this to come open after your model is built. I mean, some may say you could use super glue. I would steer clear of super glue because super glue is very, very strong, but it's also very brittle, so you may find it will crack. and your joint will split open. There we go, we've got that all held together now. So we can get some glue into there. Give that a squeeze. I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, but the actual gap is pulling the glue out of the brush, which is a good thing. And then when we squeeze it together, it oozes out. And that oozing out will be our filler. Now here I can squeeze the wing, you can see the gap opens. And that enables me to get some glue in there. Get some glue in there. Get some glue in there, there we are. And you can see it all oozing out, there we are. Right, so we get some more tape on there. I'll try and hold it so that I can pull on the tape, get it together. There we are. So that's the leading edge all taped together now, and the glue's all oozing out. So I'm going to leave that now. I'm not going to do the trailing edge. I'm just going to leave that with the leading edge done. We've got some glue in there, which is enough to be going on with. And then we can deal with the trailing edge after. That way, if we do get a problem with this leading edge splitting open after we take the tape off, then it won't be too much of a problem to cut along that joint, get the wing open and see what's wrong. If we start gluing everything together now and then we get a problem with the leading edge, we're sort of stuck. Okay, I'm not worried about this here because it's so flexible it'll just bend down, but we will be getting this all clamped together, get some glue in there, glue all these little gun bay bulkheads into the wing, and there we are. So that's that for that bit. So that's going to be left now for a while. I get some more glue in there. I'm going to give that wing, you can see I squeeze the wing and it opens the joint up. There we go. There we go. Another piece of tape. Oops. Stick that on there and then pull it around nice and tight. And I leave that for like 18 to 24 hours literally, and let that glue go really solid and let that weld together. So I'll see you in a minute after I've done the other one. Right, I'm back. This is about 12 hours later now, so the leading edge would have gone off. I'm leaving the tape on there anyway, no need to take it off. Something I have noticed, if you remember, we didn't glue the trailing edge together. You've got all this detail here in these open bays, and it kind of doesn't quite fit. Whether I made a mistake or what, but it probably is me. But you need to make sure that this detail here, okay, this detail here is going to want to go up between these little ribs and everything. And also, if you look at the back here, you can see that rib there. There's my pointer. Just use a pencil as a pointer. This rib along here is preventing the wing from closing up. So I'm going to come along with a round blade. I'm going to slice the end of that off. Okay, and then we can open the wing up and just, where I sliced it, just take that away. And then it should close up. It's still not closing up. There's something in the way there, something it doesn't like. Ah, okay, that piece of plastic was wedged in there by the look of it. No, it's still not closing up. There's something keeping it away, and I'm going to have to find out what it is. Whether it's maybe just the different angle. Maybe it's the angle of this piece of bulkhead in here is different, so if I squeeze the front edge it does close up. But I'm going to have to go and play with this now and try and get a perfect joint, and when I've done it I will come back and tell you how I did it. It was just a case of just cleaning up really. I've got this little Infini PE sander here, which is great for narrow areas. You could use a thin file, and I've just basically gone in here and just sanded off the top edge of that part there. I thought I'd done that before I put the wings together. Maybe it was the other one, because the other one does look as though it fits better. I just basically sanding off and any little ridges or mismatch or anything, and then it does go together much nicer, as you can see there. So we still end up with a bit of a gap here, but it is touching at either end, so I'm not really sure what's going on. I think what I'll do is glue it and clamp it, and then whatever gap there is there, we can put some Mr. Surfacer in, whatever. I don't want any gaps in it at all, because it's going to be so visible, because it's going to be, what's it going to be, like that, and you're going to be able to see in there. So yeah, I want to get that sorted, so we'll do that, and then we'll clamp up the back edge with some clothes pegs, and we'd be good to go. One thing I do want to do before we do any of this, nice rigid sanding stick. I'm just going to go across these flap actuators just to make sure they're all the same height. And what we can do to do that is get a pencil, make a line, just like so, and then we can go across to that, and you can see that it's touching all three because the pencil line is gone. And then we'll just go across the back. Kind of put my finger in there and hold the wing away. We just go across the back like so. This is more awkward than it looks. I'll put my finger in there. I just don't want to damage the trailing edge with the sander. And we're just going to make sure they're all level as well. There we go. And that way when we come to put our flaps on, then we know it'll all be good. So we can glue that together now and then clamp it up and let it dry. And we should be good to go. All the tips going in lovely, everywhere's cozying up lovely. It's just that little bit there that's a bit of a problem. And it's hardly anything of a problem at all really, but right. And then also this mechanism here, if I pull this wing apart a bit, you can see that this can all sort of bend about a bit. You need to make sure that's sitting in between those raised ribs and that it all goes down nice and tightly together. The fit, when you think of how much is in here and how many parts there are, the fit is astonishing. Airfix have done a really nice job of this. I do love this model. It is nice. It is very nice indeed. So I'm going to get some glue in here. So I'm going to start off in this area here, and the capillary action should pull the glue in. Now I'm not really too worried about any mess I make here, because I think, one would assume, I think that this area is going to be completely covered by the flaps, but we shall see. There's nothing that a bit of Mr. Surfacer and a quick sand won't sort out. There we go. You can see the glue working already, trying to hold it together. So I'm going to put a peg in there and a peg in there. Put one in there, one on there, and make sure that stays nicely clamped together. I'm not doing this area in here until everything else is glued. Get that one out of the way. And then I can come along here. You can see plenty of glue oozing out of there now. So if I clamp that there, be careful where you clamp. If you clamp in the middle where there's nothing supporting it, you will actually glue the wing together with the wrong shape on it. So be careful what you're doing. There we go. And then if I squeeze the wing together, you see this end will open up, and that will allow me to get some glue into that joint. In there, let it capillary along. Make sure we got some of the leading edge there where it's not going to open up. Oopsie daisy. Just clamp that there. In fact, my little reversed close pegs I think will probably be better for this. I have shown in videos before how to make them. You've got these little close pegs, you take them apart and reverse them, and it makes them much tighter, much harder clamping. So there we are, that's that one done, and we can leave that to go off, and I'll get on with the other one. Right, so we've got them glued together now. They're sat there, they're clamped up and going off. So we're going to have these bits and pieces to add in here. once it's all dried and everything all sorted. So let's have a look over the page and see what we can be getting on with. Now we've got the flaps here. So these are going to be ailerons and flaps by the look of it. Now what I do like about this kit, and I will praise Airfix, oh dear, I will praise Airfix to high heaven for this. So many kits these days, you are hunting around, you know, you might get a trumpeter kit and say it's an aircraft engine and you may use 27 parts from 17 different sprues, you know, whereas Airfix, they do this, and we've got, this bag isn't even opened yet, but this sprue end, and you can see on here we've got all of the wing control surfaces. We've got our tail planes, we've got our elevators, we've got the closing doors for the folded wings, we've got the hinge mechanisms. Everything is on this sprue. You've got the folded wing hinges there, you've got the extended wing hinges there. Absolutely brilliant. So whoever did this at Airfix, thank you very much. Brilliant forethought in designing. And you can see that everything here is N. It's all N, except for obviously the doors, which are G. But you can see you've got G, G, G. Everything is G. So absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. And let's get these parts off the sprue and we'll go on getting them together. I've got a feeling, yeah, the way this is going to go. So this is obviously, is this the port or the starboard wing? That's the starboard wing, isn't it? Because it's upside down. So this is going to be all starboard and then this is going to be all port. So I'll get them all together. You don't need to see that. It's going to be quite obvious. That black square there is telling us do not cement. I probably will cement it in because we don't want it all, we don't want to play with our model. So I might just give them a little bit of off. And then make them look so they're actually doing something. We shall see. Okay, so a little bit about an hour's work there, and we've got the elevators done with their hinges in them. So there's the elevator. Where's the other one? Here it is, over here. We've got the ailerons done, so they're all looking good. A bit of a mishap here. I was putting the glue in and it capillaried under, and I got a glue mark there. So that's going to have a bit of Mr. Surface right on a gentle rub with a fibre pencil or something. The trailing edges are very difficult to get together nicely, so what I've done, I've left them, they're not the tidiest of joints, as you can see there. So what I've done, I've left them, leave them to dry, brush a Mr. Surfacer, and then we'll sand off the edges just to get them nice and fine. We're not after razor sharp edges. In World War II, the aircraft didn't have razor sharp edges. They would have been sort of rolled around sheets, so it won't be absolutely razor sharp, especially at 24th scale. So yeah, they're done. Flaps are done. They were nice and easy to go together. They fitted nicely. Again, trailing edge, same issue. Just need to wait them for dry, give them a clean up. And then we've got the actual tail planes themselves. I've got the rudder here, all movable, as you can see. And then we've got the tail planes themselves. Now the instructions show you when you put these together, it looks like they're telling you to, there we are, they're telling you to actually fit that in there before you drop the two together. Well, you can actually put them in after. So if I've got the right one here, yes, you can actually slide them in after. They will go in. Okay, you may need to sand a little bit off them, but they will actually go in. I've had them in already once. It's difficult because it wants to pivot in the actual elevator itself, but it does go in. I may need to just, in fact, if I just sand a touch off of there. Got a runny nose today for some reason. That should help it go in. Just like that. There we go. So you can see it fits in, and they're a bit floppy, unfortunately, so they may end up having to be glued in place. It's like the old trumpeter kits with the little photo etch hooks and everything. It's all a bit floppy, but once it goes in the fuselage, I'm not sure how it's going to look. Let's have a look. Once we put it in here, let's get a bit of tape out of the way. Maybe that pin on the back will make it a bit stiffer. No, it's still really floppy. So yeah, we're going to have to perhaps I don't know, deform that pin, perhaps make it a bit oval so that it sort of gives it some friction, but or just glue them in place. But there's no good having them like that. So that's a nice tight fit in there. Wow. So there we go. So that's that all done. So we'll wait for all this to dry now, and then we'll sort the seams out. We've got a seam along there, we've got seams in here. Not too worried about the seams in here, they're not really going to be seen, but yeah, we've got some sinkage here from the moulding process. I don't know if I can catch it in the light and show you. You can see along here we've got some shrinkage all along here, but I'm not too worried about that. It looks like metal skin distortion, or we could put some Mr. Surface in there and sand it. I'm certainly not going to worry about on this one because it's going to be a matte grey and green because it's the FAA. But on the other one, which is US Navy, I think I probably will have to do something there because it's going to be glossy and it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So I think what I'll do is put Mr. Surfacer in there and sand it out, and then reproduce the rivets. So there we go. I don't know if this one's the same. Yeah, this one's the same. We've got the sink marks in there all the way along. It's where the plastic's thick. Unfortunately, with Airfix plastic being so soft, it's one of the issues with it. So that needs a bit more glue in there, or I forgot to glue it completely. I'll just put some more in there. There we go. So yeah, all nicely done. Really happy with how this has come out. I think I'll put some glue in there as well. There we go. So yeah, we'll have to decide what we're going to do about these hinges being so floppy, but we can cross that bridge when we come to it. The rudder there has got the hinge on it, which is all nicely working. The actual trim tabs, they're glued in place. If you're using liquid cement, when you actually glue it together, I mean, that one there has stayed free. That one there is glued. I'll just put a drop of glue on this one just to fix it in place. Let the glue capillary in there, and then there we go. So yeah, on the flaps, they're absolutely solid as well. So on the ailerons, should I say? So there we go. That's that done. Let's see what else we've got. Right, looking through the manual, it looks like everything that we've got forward of whether I've already done is all basically engine and engine related stuff, and we've got the buddy tanks and assembling the main fuselage and wings and everything. So what I need to do now is, now that the glue's dried and everything, I just carry on and get the flaps and ailerons and all that stuff all sorted, and get them all sanded and ready to fit back into the wings. And we'll also get these gun covers back on as well. So hang fire, I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, so while we've been off camera, I've gone on and done all the seams, sanded all the leading edges, sanding all the tips. Trailing edges just come in with a number, where is it? Here, number 10 blade. Number 10's one more than that, it's not exacto. And it's like a perfect radius to just scrape in there. Don't need to make too much fuss of these seams in here if you're having your flaps up, because as you can see, these flaps are very tight. As you can see, when they go in, they completely hide any seam in there, and there's other panels to go in there as well. So, and then the same again with your ailerons. When they go in, they're going to sit in there like that, and again, you can't see the seam on the front of the aileron, and you also can't see the seam on the front of the flap because there's going to be a panel covering it. So you don't need to worry about the leading edges of your flaps, your ailerons, or the trailing edges of your wing. You just got to worry about the leading edge of the wing. So I'm not going to fuss too much about any of this. That's really tight. And then we've got the trailing edges of the elevators. We've got our leading edges of our tailplanes to deal with. These are the little inner flaps that go into the center section there, like so. So they've got something on the outside here which is going to be very visible. The inside there won't be visible, and the seam on the front won't be visible. This here, I need to do some reference and see if this shape that Airfix have moulded in here, you can see that there's a shape that is formed the Airfix. I don't know if it doesn't continue down. If it doesn't, then fine. If it does, I'm going to have to build it up with a piece of plastic card and just put that shape in there, or if there's something else in there that they haven't moulded in. But we'll just have a look, because with the folded wings, that's going to be very visible. If you have your flaps down, non-folded wings, I don't think it will be visible because, wrong one, because they'll be, Oh, okay, it might be visible, I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So yeah, got some leading edges and trailing edges to deal with, and for that I use something, for those that don't regularly watch my channel, this chemical here, this product, Mr. Surfacer 1000. It's a wonderful product. You can get the Mr. Surfacer 500, you can get Mr. Surfacer white, they do a brown, they do a black, they do a 1200, 1500, and basically they are, for want of a better word, they're brushable fillers. You can see it's a very thick paint. This one's actually thickened up a bit. If you're only going to get one, I would recommend getting the 1000. If you want something a bit thicker, you can just pull it up on the side of the, let me show you. You could just pull it up on the side of the jar like so, and then just leave it there and it'll thicken up. If you want something thinner, you can just add some Mr. Colour leveling thinners to it. And that brush is going to be no good whatsoever because I'll need to do some fine application. So put that brush to one side, get all these sanders out of the way. Let me find a fine brush. I don't want anything too tidy. Here we go, here's one I've used. The other thing, Mr. Surfacer, you don't need to clean the brushes up. See, these bristles are all hard? Watch this. Put it in there for a few seconds, work it around, and the bristles are soft. Okay, so there's another little tip. You don't need to waste your thinners or waste your brushes, and make sure you haven't got Mr. Surfacer all over your fingers touching your parts. So ends of the ailerons, I'm not sure, so I'm just going to put some in there anyway. I don't think we need any, but just in case we can just brush some in there and it'll act as like a mild filler. And then I'm just going to go across these trailing edges just to make sure that we haven't got any little gaps, because you won't see them until you paint it, but we don't want to go painting anything yet. The thing is, if there are any little gaps there, the Mr. Surfacer will find it. So just on the inner edge there, make sure we got that nice. If you haven't used this product before, you really should get yourself some. It'd be the most useful finishing tool in your arsenal. Absolutely amazing stuff. So let's do this leading edge of this one. Make sure we go around the tip. Get into there, because you may be able to see in the end of there, so we'll get in there. And then we'll just get some down the leading edge. And we need to be a little bit careful not to go mad with it, because we've got lots of rivet detail and panel detail, and we just want to be not covering everything up if we can help it. Now what you could do is mask off around where you're going to put your Mr. Surfacer, but you know, as long as you've got a steady hand, masking up is really just a waste of tape, because it's, you know, you should be able to just run some down this edge. If it was a fuselage seam, like if you were doing like this panel line here, if you were trying to fill that, then yeah, put masking tape down the edge and it saves you getting Mr. Surfacer in your rivet detail. But there's absolutely no point whatsoever in masking up like a leading edge or something. You don't really need it. So let's do this rudder. So you've got a bit down the bottom now, not to worry about the underside of it. As I say, this one is more of a sort of quick build. The US Navy one I'm doing is it's the detailed one with all the extra effort into it. This one is more of an out of the box quick build, because I've got so many of you asking where it is and will it come back and blah blah blah. So just want to make sure that you're all happy, that's all. And I'm looking forward to seeing this done, because the first one of these I ever saw, and I'm sorry my love, your name slipped my mind again, but the young lady that built one of these, the first built one I think it was, for the Airfix magazine, I saw that at the Gloucester show. Blimey, that seems like a thing of the past, doesn't it? Model shows, eh? I saw that at the Gloucester show and was really impressed. Had a very long chat with her. Lovely young lady. And yeah, we put the world to rights, talking about different manufacturers and products and stuff. And yeah, she did a beautiful job of it. And she also did that special supplement for the Airfix magazine, which apparently wasn't in the magazine when it was supposed to be or something. I can't remember the story now, but it was funny. And I did hear a rumour that Airfix are actually looking at bringing all their production back to the UK, so that's good news. As an engineer who's semi-retired, maybe I could go and get a job now working for a model company. That would be that would suit me down to the ground. Okay, so the inner ends of these I'm going to make sure I get well covered, because they're going to be obviously exposed when the wing's folded. Just make sure that leading edge is covered just on the inner edge, because we need to make sure that we get that covered. Okay, so I'll go on and do the rest now off camera. You don't want to watch me do this and listen to me talk crap, so I'll see you in a second. So all the Mr. Servicer's done now. We've gone around the edges. Now I'm going to look at, before I start thinking about sanding this down or anything, I'm going to look at fitting these gun doors, or these gun panels should I say. And we can see on here that, if I show you in the light, you can see there that they kind of rock a bit. So I'm just going to give it a little tweak, just bend the back corner down. Just try and improve the fit. There we go. It just needs a little tiny bit more. There we go. It's kind of laying in there flat now. So now what I can do, I'm going to use my Tamiya Extra Thin for this, because it's got the tiny brush, and I'm just literally going to touch in the corner, and hopefully it'll flow down into the areas where there's a little land for the glue to sit on. With panels like this, I don't like to put the glue on first, for fear that I might get something oozing out. Okay, if there's too much glue there, if I just leave that and don't touch it, it'll be fine. There we go. Now hopefully that'll go down in around this here. You'll see the glue just evaporate. If you don't touch it, don't panic, don't go touching it and wiping it and trying to dry it out. Just leave it, don't touch it, and let it just dry out, and it'll be absolutely fine. So this one here, that one's a bit of a tighter fit. It still wants to pop out at the back, so I'm just going to give that a little tweak. Oops. And you can see what I'm saying. I could put glue on these ledges here. One, it would probably all dry out. Two, if I push it down, it may all ooze out. Now, one thing I can do is put some on here. Okay, and hopefully it won't dry before we get to it. So put plenty on there, and then put the door in. Just like so. I'm not over the moon with the way this one's going in, to be honest. There we go. It's got a completely different form than the wing. So what I'm going to try and do is pop it out. I shouldn't have put that glue on there, should I? There we go. What I'm going to do is get my 800 stick, just take some off of here. That's a bit better, just try and get an easier fit, because it was trying to sort of squeeze itself into place. See, that's much better. Just that couple of swipes with the stick has got it sorted. So again, we can put some glue in. Put some glue in. And if you didn't see my video I mentioned before, guys, I think it's one of my Titanic videos, with this Tamiya Extra Thin, be very, very careful with new bottles. They're so full up, you end up with this whole stem is soaked in glue, and you end up with a big blob on here. And it's when you're doing stuff like this that it will drip off. And it will drip off onto your finger or something, and it will capillary under. And you really don't want that to happen. So what I always do is, with a spare bottle, I just keep them half full. You know, just so that it's just touching the bristles, and then when it gets too low that you need to start shaking the bottle around, just give it a little top up. There we go. And that one where all that glue was flooded, you can see now the glue is dried out and you'd hardly even know it was there. Okay, just like I say, don't touch it. They're a very nice fit, those panels. I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to do anything with it at all. Just leave it like it is. I would normally put Mr. Surfacer around it and then go over with some thinners to remove the Mr. Surfacer, and that'll leave the panel line in place. But in this situation, you know, it's obviously showing it's a removable panel. This is a removable panel also. We'll have to use paint to get that effect. But yeah, there we go. All very nice. I wonder what these are actually. I'll have to check that out. So I'm going to call it a day there, guys, because we've done enough, I think. And now I'm going to just let all this Mr. Surfacer dry and then give it a sand down. So I'll see you back for part 8. No, 9. This is 8, isn't it? And we'll go from there. I think we'll start doing some work on the cockpit next. One thing I do want to show you quickly. If you remember, I did that highlighting with the cockpit. Now, if I get the light right, you'll see here what it's done. When you look down inside there, you can see that all of the parts that are raised, all the detail that's raised away from the floor is kind of standing out, and it's artistic license to make things pop rather than just have it all one dark green colour, and it's given it a shadow effect. Yeah, when the seat's in there, you're hardly going to see all that anyway, but like you can see there on the bulkhead, it's kind of it's giving it more of a 3D look rather than just green. You know, which is something you need to be thinking about when you've got these bigger scale models. You need to be thinking about the artistic effect of how to make it look a bit more interesting, because this is one of the trouble with large scale. If this was 72nd scale, you could paint that cockpit green, give it a wash with some dark grey or black, and it would look bloody beautiful. You do that with this, it looks like a toy, because it's all so big. And that is the problem with bigger models, and that's why this model is so beautiful with all this lovely surface texture and all the canning on it. It does make it look, you know, very untoy-like, if you like. So anyway, I've waffled enough. I'll see you all soon, like I say, for part 9. And like I say, we'll get on with the cockpit. I also need to do some work in around these areas. I'll do that off camera, and I want to do some work in around these areas as well with the Mr. Surfacer. We've got a couple of plastic pieces to add in there too. So I'll see you all for part 9, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.